In our first story, the minority in Parliament at an emergency press conference Wednesday afternoon has warned government to tread cautiously on its decision to authorize the burial of the Nakpana in Bimbilla as Bimbilla Na. The burial ceremony, according to the NDC MPs, could derail the fragile peace in that part of the country. Ranking member on Interior and Defence Committee, was also MP for Bulsa North, James Agalga, asked the feuding factions to maintain the status quo, awaiting the determination of the Supreme Court on the matter.
Attention of the NDC minority in Parliament has been drawn to the potential threat of the peace in the Nanumba North municipal capital of Bimbilla. Reports emanating from there speak of mounting tension following the decision of the government to authorize the burial of the Nakpana Salifu Dawuni in Bimbilla. Our attention has further been drawn to this matter by a statement issued to the media by the family of the current regent of Bimbilla, Yelem Bolgo Na and Dani Dasana. The NDC is very much concerned about these developments in Bimbilla, as it has the potential to compromise the peace, order, security, and stability of the area. We particularly note the fragile nature of the peace in the area, which itself is underlined by the maintenance of the curfew imposed about 3 years ago, and wish to point out that the action by government, with a due consultation with the relevant traditional authority in the area, has the potential to breach the peace. Additionally, the inability to spell out in clear terms the condition under which the burial of the late Nakpana would be undertaken further muddies the waters. We take cognizance of the fact that the continued insistence by the Nakpana faction to bury him as Bimbilla Na in Bimbilla has been the single most prominent issue sustaining the crisis. It is worthy of note that the matter of the Nakpana Salifu Dawuni is the subject of a pending appeal launched by the same family before the Supreme Court. Information available to us indicate that many people are fleeing from Bimbilla when news broke out that the late Nakpana's remains are on its way to Bimbilla for the burial today. We recall that only last week, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, admonished his appointees to desist from interfering in chieftaincy matters, and that such matters be left to the traditional authorities. What has become of the President's admonition? At the press conference of the family of the acting Bimbilla overlord Yelem Bolgo Na and Dani Dasana in Accra today, on the troubling situation in Bimbilla, the names of some leading political functionaries were mentioned. It is against this backdrop that we wish to call upon the President to walk the talk by ensuring that the chieftaincy dispute in Bimbilla is resolved, devoid of political interference. It is especially important to note, that the status quo ante relative to the chieftaincy of Bimbilla is preserved pending the outcome of the litigation before the Supreme Court. We wish to call on the people of Bimbilla to exercise restraint and take all legitimate, legal, and peaceful means to vindicate their rights so that the peace will continue to reign in Bimbilla for the collective good of the area.
Now, the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, has revealed 359 people have so far been identified as being affected by the Madina atomic gas explosion, which happened last Saturday. They were identified after a 2-day assessment of the damage caused by the explosion. The death toll remains at 7, with more than 130 people injured, 2 in critical condition. Shortly, we'll hear from the NADMO authorities, but first, listen to some victims who turned up at the scene of the disaster to be counted as part of the assessment.
The reason why I'm here that the Saturday where the problem happened of the fire burning, so and the night I tried to come and watch, but it's too much of and fire and many of things. So the money time I come back to watch my farm around the Legon, my everything, my plantain, my potato, my seed, all burn. So I come to lodge the complaint to the police so that maybe it can help us to get what we can plan for this season small.
I'm actually back. Filling station will be.
My sister told me that her husband, Kwame Boakye, was part of those who died at the atomic gas explosion and that I should come and inquire more about it. I did my own research and realized that indeed he's part of the 7 that died. I called his boss and he told me to come and make a complaint. So that's why I am here. We plead with the police to help us. I want all residents in Kumasi to know that Kwame Boakye is indeed dead and his mortal remains lie at the 37 military hospital.
Now, NADMO Director for Greater Accra, Archibald Kobina, tells Joy News they intend to present a report to Cabinet ahead of its crucial meeting tomorrow.
As of yesterday night, when we closed, the report that we have from the post was about 181 persons who have come to register. We also sent some of our teams into the various homes and the hostels around. That's Legon, the hostels in Legon, and then Presec. But even the Presec school, they've asked us to come again because there are some new developments. So I've sent the team to Presec so that we can have a more bird's eye view and make sure that we capture everybody as much as possible. We are also preparing our reports so that we can send to our national office for onwards transmission to the Apex Ministry. So we're doing all of that. I think the ones that came from the homes, about 178, right?
Yeah, 178.
178 thereabout from the various homes. And then about 44 households have also been affected. We'll send our reports in the national world. As you are aware, even His Excellency the President has called a cabinet meeting. I'm sure you're aware of that. So definitely whatever will be done, the government will let all of us know, and then we can take it from that point. But I can also assure you, from our point of our level, we will also be preparing ourselves, because psychologically we need to, those who have come to register, we're speaking to some of the doctors. We're going to see how to help people psychologically, because even the team we are working with here, because we've been around since Saturday till now, and even that we can still feel the effects of the environment. And I think that it's imperative that we have some kind of a psychological thing work done.
To other stories now, and the Ghana International Bank has questioned the source of the £350,000 cash allegedly given by the Asantehene Otufuo Tutu to a dismissed senior official of the bank. Now, we will be bringing you details of that statement by the bank. Well, the UK-based bank is questioning the source of the amount allegedly given by the Asantehene to a senior official there who has since been dismissed. MacArthur was suspended and subsequently dismissed for receiving the amount from the Asantehene in his residence in London in August 2016. This transaction triggered a money laundering alert in London and cost Mr. Arthur his job. But he's currently fighting the bank for its decision to dismiss him, saying it is wrong, unfair, and amounts to failure to protect a whistleblower. Here's a News Desk report.
to a Ghanaian king handing someone a hodl stuffed with more than £350,000 to deposit in a bank might seem nothing out of the ordinary. Asante-Hene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II, who once worked at Brent Council, summoned MacArthur, the Ghana International Bank's second most senior executive, to his multi-million-pound residence in Henley-on-Thames in August 2016 and handed him a bag containing almost £200,000 in sterling as well as $200,000 with consecutive serial numbers. But the bank official felt it inappropriate to ask too many questions. However, the subsequent deposit of the cash at Ghana International Bank triggered a money laundering alert in the City of London and cost Mr. Arthur his job. Mr. Arthur from New Barnet, Hertfordshire, a dual citizen of the UK and Ghana with Ashanti descent, drove to his own home with the cash and then took it in an Uber taxi to the bank's city offices for deposits in the king's account, he told an employment tribunal. Osei-Tutu II, the holder of a diplomatic passport, told him the cash had been withdrawn from banks in Ghana and brought to the UK. He said in his witness statement he was suspended and subsequently sacked following the incident after an investigation by outside accountant Grant Thornton. He is claiming wrongful dismissal, unfair dismissal, and failure to protect a whistleblower. The bank said he had failed to follow anti-money laundering rules and had violated security policies as it was only insured to carry cash by armored car up to a maximum of £250,000. In his witness statement, Mr. Arthur said he was not able to follow anti-money laundering rules when he accepted the cash because of the king's status. The day after the bank accepted the cash and made the transfer to Jersey, it reported the transactions to the National Crime Agency as suspicious. News of Mr. Arthur's suspension was subsequently passed to the City Watchdogs, the Prudential Regulation Authority, and the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA. Lawyers for Mr. Arthur argued that his handling of the deposit was in line with the way the bank previously handled Osei-Tutu II's account.
Now, the Ghana International Bank says MacArthur failed to follow anti-money laundering rules and violated security policies. They've issued a statement to that effect, and joining me with a copy of that statement is my colleague, Evans Mensah. Evans, there are various issues that the statement raises. Take us through them.
So the statement raises 6 issues. It talks about some of the claims made by Mr. Arthur. One of them is that he had made the claim that there was a non-disclosure of the Grant Thornton notes, and they state that the respondent has never, and this is the bank in question, has never been given them. An application by the claimant's solicitors to obtain the notes was denied by an employment tribunal on 31st August. Now, another claim that had been made by Mr. Arthur was that he has said that accepting the cash deposits and carrying out the due diligence afterwards, that the bank had this practice where they simply accept huge cash deposits, such as happened, and then they do the due diligence afterwards. Now the bank says, quote, they reject this notion that there is a precedent for accepting large sums of cash and carrying out due diligence afterwards. Now there is no comparable event involving large amounts of cash which will justify the claimant's actions. Again, Mr. Arthur had suggested in the tribunal that the company had an insurance policy that covered the transportation of large sums of cash in, unofficial car vehicles, such as Uber, because he used Uber to carry the vehicle, to carry the money. The bank says the respondent's policy did not cover the transportation of cash by the claimant. In other words, if he had traveled with the cash as he did in Uber and something had happened, the insurance would not have covered it. And the final one, again, that there was a breach of he denied that there was a breach of the bank's policies. Now, the bank says that they maintain that there was a clear breach of their policies, and that Mr. Arthur should not have taken receipt of the £199,960 pounds and $200,000 without having first undertaken appropriate due diligence on the source of the funds which he failed to do. Remember that he also alleged that the bank had given approval for this transaction to happen.
Right.
The bank says that they had a clear process for approval, which involved compliance checks. The claimant chose to ignore the bank's processes, they claim. And this is a statement that they got their communications and PR representative, Middleton Communications, to issue.
All right. Many thanks, Evans Mensah, with those details. And you're watching Joy News Prime. I'm Arba Kumsi. We're taking a short break, and still ahead, we have lots more stories. Don't go away. You're welcome back. Now, a Chinese national who is alleged to have shot and killed a Ghanaian has been remanded into police custody by Takoradi District Court in the Western region. Jiang Zhenhai allegedly shot Nana Boa over the weekend when the Ghanaian accompanied a friend to retrieve monies owed by the Chinese in Wase Kropong. Prosecutors appealed to the court to remand Jiang Zhenhai to grant the police more time for further investigations. Correspondent Francis Waja joins me on the line now with more on this. Good evening to you, Francis.
Yeah, hi, good evening.
Now, what more can you tell us about what transpired in court today?
Okay, so today, what I can report is that the prosecuting team is yet going to the crux of the matter itself. All that the police inspector Bernard Pa Ahinsan, who was leading the prosecution, sought to pray the court to do was to request for more time so that they could investigate further into the issues that led to the pulling of the trigger on Nana Boa, the 29-year-old. And so for now, that is Mr. Jiang Zhenhai, will spend the rest of the days at the Takoradi Central Police, where he's been remanded into police custody. But then today there were a few Ghanaians and a few Chinese nationals also in court. I would say that the appearance of Mr. Hai was very ordinary. I mean, he didn't seem to be too bothered about events that were unfolding around him. He appeared very simple in his white T-shirt, just watched proceedings, and when it was time for him to be taken back to police custody, he just complied and then moved on. Now, I spoke to the few Ghanaians who are around. They are very keen on the protest that has just begun, although they've not gone into the matter yet. They are just happy about the fact that they now know that this is the suspect that did this. This is where he is being kept. The process has begun. Again, I met up with the paramount chief of the Wasa Aminfi Traditional Area, Okuama Station, this afternoon at the Western Regional House of Chiefs, and he was also positive about the process that has begun. Initially, he called for calm when the riots began, and so he's also positive that the process will end smoothly. So for now, that's what I can report. We are hoping for when next they will come back to court for the process itself to begin.
But just before you go, Francis, we also know that the Interior Minister visited the area in the wake of the incident. What assurances, if any, has he been given to ensure we don't witness incidences of such nature in the future?
Well, the Interior Minister Ambrose Derry were told was supposed to have been to Wase Kropong, but unfortunately he could not go there. This afternoon, pressmen were eager to get a few answers from the Interior Ministry in relation to Wase Kropong. But unfortunately, again, we had to miss him because he had to come back to Accra for some emergency. So he was not in Wase Kropong. But then what I can report is that there's still some military and police presence in Wase Kropong. The plan is to still control or manage the tempest that rose over the weekend, as some Ghanaians had still vowed to revenge. So we still have some security men on the ground in Wase Kropong.
Francis Waja is our Western Regional Correspondent. Many thanks for that update. Now, Food and Agriculture Minister Dr. Efiri Osei-Akoto has assured students of the country's various colleges of agriculture that their concerns about the restoration of their allowances will be addressed sooner than later. The students earlier Wednesday picketed the ministry's premises here in Accra. More than 300 of them converged at the ministry, chanting, all in a bid to mount pressure on the ministry to restore their allowances, as has been done for teachers and teacher and nursing trainees. Joy News' Maxwell Ababa has more in this report.
Compound of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, these students from the colleges of Agric arrived here at exactly 5:30 a.m. to protest and call for the restoration of the allowances. They say nursery trainees had the allowances restored, and they do not know why DS have not been restored yet.
We are here to demand for the restoration of our allowances, because it has been for some time now we've been trying to dialogue with the ministry to get our allowance restored as compared to the others, because due to the elections the MPP government promised of restoring all allowances of the training colleges, and our allowance was also cancelled when they were also cancelling the teachers and the nurses training college. Now we were expecting that as they are restoring allowances, our will also be captured in the budget.
One of the students are just dancing, some of them holding placards, no alawa, no direct employment. What is good for teacher and nursing trainees is also good for agri trainee. All professions can boast, but the farmer feeds them all. We have some police officers here at this point trying to restore order because some of these students were actually walking directly on the corridors of the offices here. Some of them barged into offices. A lot of people are joining offices here in this ministry's enclave are unable to work. A lot of them standing very close to their windows, hearing their heads through their windows to see exactly what is happening here on this premises. It's a noisy atmosphere here. And these students are relentless. They're saying that, look, you need to pay us our allowances before we leave.
If Nana Akufo-Addo is saying that he is going to improve this nation with Agric people, they should come and look at first. They should pamper Agric people. In fact, they should pamper us. They should pamper Agric people. We are the first people that they should look up to before you go to the next people. There's a saying goes, wherever there is sweet, ant is there. Wherever there is sweet, ant is there. Wherever there is sweet on the floor, there's a drop of sweet. You get an ant gathering over there. That is the reason why there is sweet over there and people are heading towards the nursing side. I'm a spiritual person. I put it on Facebook that if they are not leaving us, there will be a secret and a very powerful prayer against anybody. Anybody who will choke against our God, that person will face the wrath. That one there is a question mark. It's a question mark for this nation. It's a disgraceful for this nation. It is a disgraceful for this nation because we need this money. Look, we want arrears. When you come to someone, you have to be paid. When I get to level 200, you have to calculate all the arrears and give it to me. We don't want it straightforward. We want the arrears too. So there should be a point that they will pay all the arrears for us before we are accepted. Otherwise, we're not going back. Call a secret prayer. We believe in the Almighty God. You think that...
Prayer for what? Prayer for what?
Prayer for everything. With God, all things are possible.
You curse?
Yes, we will not curse. No. No, we will not curse them. But I believe that God...
We will curse them. We will curse them. Seriously. We are so disappointed in the minister. Our minister, we are disappointed with our minister. Not go.
There's some angry students of the College of Agriculture there. Now let's go on the lines and speak to the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Barbara Tanko. Many thanks for your time. Good evening to you.
Good evening and thanks for having me.
Welcome to the assurances given to the students. But first explain to me how similar or different these allowances are to those that are given to the nurses and teacher trainees.
Well, what I know about the Agric College students was that 2 months ago they presented, should I say, they issued a press statement and gave a copy to the ministry. And one of the issues they raised was about restoration of their allowances, which they used to enjoy before. And the other issue had to do with outright posting after they have left school by the ministry. And the third issue had to do with infrastructure on their campuses. That is equipment and tools to enhance their training. These were brought to the attention of the minister. He had the opportunity to meet the student leadership. And he said he was concerned. There were legitimate concerns that were raised. And he was going to act on it and ensure that at the end of the day, those issues will be addressed. And indeed, it made a cabinet, he made a proposal or a request to cabinet to, as it were, allow him to recruit for the sector, because the policy planted for food and jobs, if it will succeed, it depends on the human resource that we are turning out from this agri-college institution. And the other issue he took up was restoration of these trainee allowances, of which he also made a request to Cabinet for it to be considered.
Okay, so Mr. Tanko, the minister indicated they'll be paid sooner or later. That's quite vague. How soon are they likely to be paid?
Well, he spoke to the students, and the assurances he gave them were that it is a process and not an event. Once it's a process, he won't be able to give timelines. But he has made that request, and he was very optimistic that at the end of the day, the request will be honored.
So how did the students receive the assurances?
Well, from their reaction, I knew they were not satisfied with the response Minister gave. But I have always been in touch with them, and we keep telling them to be patient, because the minister was actually concerned. He said he's been a farmer since childhood. He's grown up, he's gone to learn farming. Everything about him is farming. And therefore, the interest of the youth is concerned. And he was in a position to ensure that these issues are resolved. The minister was very sincere and straightforward. And, well, they were not happy. They didn't even want to leave. At the end of the day, I think, after thinking through what the minister said, they had no option but to leave.
All right, many thanks. We'll leave it here. And that's Bagbara Tanko. He's Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. We're taking a short break. Business is up next. Stay with us.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining me. This is Business. The year-on-year inflation for the month of September has declined to 12.2%. This rate is a reduction of 0.1% from the 12.3% recorded in August. A director at the Ghana Statistical Service, Anthony Amuzu, who disclosed this to the media in Accra, noted that some key drivers influencing the rate include transport, electricity, and some utilities.
It depends on a number of factors. You know, we are comparing September 2017 to September 2016. So if in September 2016 the increase or the change was low, then you expect that for 2017 the rate will be higher. That's what we've been referring to as the base drift effect. So that is possible reason for that. You realize that for some time now, housing, water, electricity has always been the lowest. And if you remember, when there was that huge increase in electricity and water tariffs, inflation went to 38 point something percent. And now that those high rates are not occurring, that is why you are seeing the rate now very low. Because we are comparing what happened the previous year to what has happened in the current year or the current month. And that is why you see that difference.
Meanwhile, economist with Data Bank, Courage Marty, has been analyzing the implications of this on the economy. Speaking on the marketplace, Courage Marty projected a further drop in inflation in October.
Since the turn of the year, we've seen that a key driver of the decline in inflation is the base effect. And this is a situation where last year and the year before had a significant increase in the consumer price index. And so that subsequent months or years, the previous years, which are now serving as the base, we're pulling down the percentage change in the consumer price index. So this is not a surprise in that regard. Having said that, it's also important to recall that in the 2017 budget, fiscal policy measures were taken and which had a bearing on price dynamics in the economy. One relating to the levies on electricity, and that relative to last year would necessarily bring down electricity every month when you measure it against the month the previous year. So overall, it's not surprise at all, particularly because these are measures that were taken together with Basic to pull down the rate.
All right, so do you expect this reduction to continue for the month of October?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm just checking the numbers before coming to do this interview. I noticed that we may see a substantial decline in October, mainly due to another round of base effect. Because from what I am saying, the base for October 2016 appears relatively high enough to pull down the percentage change. And so we are likely to see inflation dropping down to the higher end of 11%. I mean, we see it about 11.7, 11.6, 11.8, but it will drop substantially in October, I expect, because of base effect.
Away from that, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is challenging global investors to put their money behind Ghana's growing economic opportunities. He cites especially the financial services industry and agricultural sectors as safe investment areas that should guarantee high returns in the coming years. According to him, the strides so far made in stabilizing the economy signal a beginning of an improved business-friendly environment in Ghana, which investors need to capitalize on. The finance minister was speaking at an investment pitch on the sidelines of the IMF World Bank annual meetings in Washington, D.C.
In a nutshell, we've created a pretty positive environment. I think the spirit for people to do things differently is manifest and is clear. At least on the international level, Moody's, Fitch, and S&P have all upgraded us, given the type of work that is being done. But I think the commitment of the team and the commitment of the president in terms of moving Ghana beyond aid, it's something that we are not compromising on. And we feel very deeply that Ghana can be that pillar of stability, that beacon, which will then really push to get private sector investment, be the hub for Africa. So that we radiate this type of good governance supported by good macro policies and an opening for private sector. We look at our education infrastructure right now, and the pedagogy that we are using is just hard to believe that there will be equity in the shortest possible time. So the issue of technology as an intervention is a key element for bringing social justice and equity into the system. And I think it's a priority area, and we launched a free senior high school system about a month ago of this semester starting. And that has been quite electric. Almost 100,000 students who otherwise would not have gone to senior high school have now been able to come in, and there's a real energized spirit there. But you also realize that, sort of the kindergarten and the primary school system needs to be strengthened, and teachers need to be much better than they are these days in terms of supervision. So the technological intervention is really key.
The Minister of Trade and Industry, Alan Kyerematen, has charged the reconstituted task force against the importation of cheap textiles into the country to focus its operations on the Eastern Corridor borders, which stretches from Aflao border to the Elubu entry point. The Textile Workers Union and other stakeholders recently petitioned the minister over the pirated textile menace, which they lament is increasingly killing the textile manufacturing sector. The reconstituted task force is expected to target the country's borders rather than the local markets.
I want it to be absolutely clear that based on the statistics that is available to us, what we are talking about, this problem that we are trying to address, is a real one, and it's a very serious one. The total demand for textile prints annually in this country is between 120 to 130 million yards per annum. 120 to 130 million yards per annum. the combined supply, that's production, amongst the key companies is not more than 30 million yards. So if you imagine the gap between the demand and supply, you are talking 130 million yards per annum, and it's only 30 million yards that is produced. It means that almost 100 million yards every year is coming into this country.
And finally, before we go, the National Investment Bank, NIB, has partnered RIA Money Transfer to provide smooth money transfer services for its customers. This adds to the array of international money transfer services offered by the bank to provide its customers unlimited access to remittances from across the globe. Management says the partnership should inure to the benefits of customers of both entities. And on that, we end tonight's business. Thanks for your attention. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Viafi. Have a good evening.
You're welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISER, is asking government to focus its planting for food and jobs policy on oil seeds, fruits and vegetables, as well as cassava. Essentially, ISER wants government to focus the policy on foods that have a high possibility of reducing poverty. ISER made this known when it launched the 2016 State of the Ghanaian Economy report. My colleague Nancy Emefa Dradosi was there. She's come through with this report.
By analyzing various sectors of the Ghanaian economy, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research revealed that 4 key agricultural products, including some crops, were known to reduce poverty. Professor Felix Ankoma Sante is the director of ISER.
Our priority crops should relate to what our policy objectives are. The 10 highest ranked value chain across 3 selected outcomes, which are reducing rural poverty headcount, diversifying poor rural household diets, and 3, promoting the GDP growth. We noticed that there were 4 products out of the 10 that satisfied all these 3 indicators.
At the launch of the Planting for Food and Jobs program in April 2017, the Agric Ministry identified 4 crops on which the policy will focus. The policy was expected to increase the production of maize by 30%, rice by 49%, soybean by 25% and sorghum by 28% from the current production levels. However, ISER is of the view that government should focus on oilseeds, fruits and vegetables. The institute also revealed that cassava had a very high possibility of reducing poverty and generating growth.
Other oil seeds, fruits and nuts and vegetables. Okay. And you notice that cassava is effective at reducing poverty and generating growth. So if we're encouraging farmers to grow cassava, what we are doing is that we are hoping that it will help reduce poverty and generate growth. And here the generation of growth is the total GDP. When you go to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and you ask them their priority crops, you can't count. It's a whole tall list. Every government tries to add to it and try to satisfy all the 10 regions. And I think it's high time we concentrate on some few ones, knowing what we want it to achieve in terms of policy and put our resources in.
Meanwhile, research from ISER also revealed that the artisanal small-scale mining, popularly known as galamsey, though illegal, contributed significantly to the growth of the economy.
The ASM sector has made enormous contribution to the economy of Ghana in gold output, export revenue and employment. For diamond production, the ASM share increased from 78.2% in 2000 to 100% in 2008. What it means is that virtually the diamond produced in this country is by artisanal small-scale mining.
This came with calls for the Minerals Commission to establish district offices in the rural areas to check the activities of the small-scale miners.
Now, residents of the Aganda community at Kandiga in the Kassina-Nankana West District of the Upper East region are demanding authorities there construct a school, a clinic and a public toilet facility in return for the taxes they've been paying. The residents who say they've been neglected by the district raised these concerns at a program held in the community to promote citizen participation in the local assembly for development. Correspondent Albert Sori reports.
Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, in partnership with the Open Society Initiatives for West Africa and the Rural Initiatives for Self-Empowerment, are implementing a project aimed at promoting social accountability through citizens' participation in local governance in Ghana. As part of the project, 100 community debates are being held in communities within the 20 districts in which the project is being implemented. The debates aim at providing a platform for people in the communities to share their concerns with the district assemblies, ask pertinent questions about the development of their areas, and for the assemblies to make information accessible to the citizens. At one of such debates held at the Aganda community at Kandega in the Kassena-Nankana West District of the Upper East Region, the chief of the area, Naba Awene Amenga Etgo, was unhappy about the pace of development in the area.
The district assembly is always talking about doing one thing or the other, and yet there is a glaring problem in this area, and they are not talking about it. The road from this place to Sirigu is a major one. I am sure on their way to this community they used that road. Several years ago, the district assembly in Navrongo constructed the road, but they stopped when they got to this community because they said that was their portion of the road. The rest of it from here to Sirigu has been left like that, and during the rainy seasons, it is very difficult to use that road. But the Kassena-Nankana West District Assembly is not even talking about it.
The chief's concerns were echoed by community members when they took their turn.
One major concern for us, the women in this area, is a clinic. When we are pregnant or need to take our children to seek health care, we have to travel several miles to get to the health center, and lives may be lost during such journeys. So we badly need a clinic in this area.
I want to know whether those of us in this community are not paying our taxes. Because as a child, I attended the basic school here, and the state in which it was has since not changed. When it rains, the school has to close. I really cannot understand why we pay our taxes, and yet no development is coming to this area.
The budget officer for the Kassena-Nankana West District Assembly, Seydou Swalihu, responded to some of the concerns of the people.
If you say that the assembly does what they want, it's not true. Assembly cannot do anything now. You are part of the assembly. So that's how the planning starts. We have taken your concerns and to be inputted into the medium-term development plan. Any activity that we want to take will come from the medium-term development plan.
The Center for Democratic Development says it will continue to work to promote accountable governance in Ghana.
This project in collaboration with the Open Society Initiative for West Africa called OSIWA, so that we will be able to promote inclusiveness, open society, and equal opportunity for all. And above all, citizens will have a voice in the governance process.
For Joy News, Albert Sori, reporting from Kandega.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has charged fellow leaders on the African continent to implement programs that address the myriad of problems many on the continent face. He said Africans are looking up to their leaders to improve their conditions of living, warning failure to do so will not augur well for the continent. Speaking at a dinner at the Flagstaff House held in the honor of the visiting Benin President Patrice Talon, President Akufo-Addo called for greater cooperation among leaders on the continent to address factors that divide member states.
Equally important, and there once again I want to agree with you, are the regional projects. Because I think that if we are able to really initiate those, They become the integration by facts on the ground, which form an even stronger bond. The roads. There's already a project to link the road network through from Lagos through your country, through Togo here, and to Cote d'Ivoire. More attention needs to be paid to make sure that that happens. And at the end of the day, that road just doesn't stop in Cote d'Ivoire, but as much as possible extends. Why not to Dakar? The same with the railway. I think that these projects, if we make these the focal point of our immediate concerns, put our attentions to them, they become a very, very, very powerful motor for moving the integration project across. So I think it's something that we need to do, and it will help not just in linking us, but also in promoting that common response to the problems we have in the region, the issue of terrorism that you've identified, and the need for us to pull our resources closely together.
Well, his Beninois counterpart echoed similar sentiments. President Talon was unhappy about the seeming lack of communication between leaders on the continent for the general good. He spoke through an interpreter at a joint news conference.
Tout à l'heure, je vous disais pendant nos entretiens que nous ne fréquentons pas assez, nous ne visitons pas assez, nous ne travaillons pas assez pour l'intégration de nos peuples.
A little while ago, I did indicate to you, Mr. President, that we are not interacting enough. We are not working enough. We are not collaborating enough for the integration of the peoples of our region.
Nous avons le potentiel. Vous êtes très engagés sur ce chemin, je le suis également. La plupart de nos chefs d'État de nos régions sont de plus en plus engagés dans cette dynamique. Mon souhait est que le ciel nous accorde la force, nous accorde la lumière qu'il faut, et que nos populations nous accompagnent, parce que la responsabilité principale nous revient à nous, dirigeants, à nous, leaders, à nous, gouvernants, de sorte que face à nos populations, face à nos peuples, nous ayons fait l'essentiel, agir pour l'intégration, agir pour le développement.
The onus is on us as leaders to work towards the integration of our people. We are united as leaders because we have the same commitment, and we therefore need to work together in that direction for the benefit of our people.
The Benin president, who also took office this year, is in Ghana to build bilateral relationship and enhance areas of cooperation. Now, the minority in parliament has questioned government's decision to establish the Coastal Belt Development Authority. In a dramatic turn of events, MP for Ho Central, Podo Benjamin Komla, used the Ghana map to illustrate how the establishment of a Coastal Belt Development Authority will disadvantage the region. The MP argues the authority, when instituted, would in the long run create geographical problems for natives of the Volta region in accessing funds to manage affairs in that part of the country.
Yes, because I have a map here. The Volta region is to the extreme right.
The MPs for Ho Central and Keta, who were vociferous about the bill on the floor Wednesday, have called on government to consider creating a Trans-Volta authority for the region. MP for Ho Central demonstrated to Joy News why the Coastal Belt Authority will disadvantage the Volta region.
The Volta region has a peculiar problem. These people are in the north with the northern belt problems. These people are in the middle with the middle belt problems. And these are in the coast with the coastal belt problems. So in order to really cater for this multifaceted region, I was suggesting that we should take out Volta region completely from any of the three that we had earlier worked on. We should take out the Volta region and create a separate authority so that I can look at the peculiarities of the region.
MP for Keta Richard Kwashiga also questioned the composition of the authority.
The board shall be appointed, the governing body shall be appointed. The governing body of the authority is a board consisting of a chairman nominated by the president. And when you go down, it also says that 6 persons with professional expertise to be appointed nominated by the president. And then it goes on 4.2 also says that the members of the board shall be appointed by the president in accordance with Article 70 of the Constitution. And even to the extent that even the staff of the authority are to be appointed by the president. What can you imagine will happen when this goes through the way it is? It will obviously become a political football. And the intent of the authority will not be realized, because we're talking about being a vehicle that will develop, the impoverished areas of our country. But then we know too well that in this country, immediately power is ceded to some political authority, the whole thing becomes partisan, and the tendency of the masses that bedeviled previous authorities obviously incite. Like Sada, you could mention.
The majority leader, Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, however, defended the creation of the authority, saying it will be the primary agency in the implementation of infrastructure for poverty eradication program.
The government has decided to ensure inclusive and accelerated bottom-up socio-economic development in the country. The government, in this regard, is purposed to establish the Coastal Development Authority to spearhead this agenda. The Coastal Development Authority, in addition to enhancing the inclusive development of the Greater Accra region, the Central region, and the Western region, as well as the Volta regions of the country, will be the primary agency for implementing the infrastructure for poverty eradication program.
The belt is also expected to champion job creation.
Now, Oxfam in Ghana is calling for more accountability of civil society organizations. This, the organization believes, will give them credibility and clout to make more demands of government in fashioning out programs intended to enhance the well-being of citizens. Speaking in an interview with Joy News after the launch of One Oxfam, the country director of Oxfam in Ghana, Tijani Hamza, said funding for civil society groups in development are reducing due to many factors, including failure to account for funds from donor partners.
For which you are doing the same job you're doing. So
No, I think civil society can only get stronger. But before they get that stronger, I think that we or they need to put our house in order in several ways. One is that, yes, Ghana is now a middle-income country. So it's no more an attractive country for the sort of funding that civil society organizations used to receive. So resources for civil society organizations are going down. That means that civil society will now have to be proactive to see how we can get work on the whole Ghanaian landscape, local philanthropy. How do we access resources internally? But also that civil society needs to be more coordinated in our responses to issues, because sometimes, because we are not well coordinated, we send mixed messages to the politicians on the work that they have to do. But also, civil society organizations are always talking about accountability. So we also have to show the country that we are accountable. And accountability to us should be upwards, downwards, and then sideways. So we should account to the people that we work for, if I can say so. We should also account to regulators and then have a peer mechanism for which we can account to each other. In that way, I think that not only government, because actually civil society, our influence goes beyond the arena of government. We also want to influence development partners. We want to influence the private sector. We also want to influence the traditional leadership, because some of the challenges we face are based on some traditional practices in our localities. And currently, I mean, you agree with it that one of the challenges we have in a country is how to deal with integrity and public financial management. We find organizations like Imani looking at the Auditor General's report, which is passed, which is from the executive, sent to what's the name, Parliament, and sometimes we feel nothing is done about it. But they have used the reports, either acted on or not, as avenues in which they want to dialogue within the government, and sometimes making propositions. For example, like having a fiscal responsibility bill, which will, in a way, support to secure that we have a very good public financial management system in the country.
Okay, so now on sectors government needs to focus more to improve the quality of life for Ghanaians, Mr. Hamza suggested 4 key areas he believes are necessary towards achieving equality, jobs, and improving livelihoods.
I see in Ghana there are 3 things we need to look at. The teeming youth unemployment in the country is a major issue. The issue around inequality is a major issue. Yes, Ghana is a middle income country, but the disparity is very, very high. Rural, urban, geographic disparity, male-female disparity. So we have to deal with that. But also the whole issue around public financial management. If you manage our finances as a country very, very well, we will be able to get more money to invest it into these areas that will deal with equality, but also the areas that will deal with debt and unemployment. As an organization, yes, we work in sectors, but you know, the sectors are so interlinked. You get my point, to the point that we have realized that these 3 are very, very key. So however work we do, whether in agriculture, economic justice, in extractive industry governance, in work around essential social services, they are dealing with issues around youth unemployment. They are dealing with issues around integrity. They are dealing with issues around inequality.
First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo has expressed satisfaction with the pace of work of the construction of the new mother and baby unit at the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital. The new building was necessitated after Joy News special assignment by Seth Kwame Boateng on the plight of mothers at the maternity unit of the hospital. An average of 5 babies die every day at the hospital due to lack of space, whilst about 1,000 bed mother construction has been stalled. The First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo, arrived in Kumasi to inspect the pace of the construction on the new building. Mrs. Akufo-Addo was excited about the project and called for more support.
I'm overwhelmed. I didn't expect anything like this. We had arranged to have this thing, this unit built, and I saw drawings of it, but I didn't know this is how it would turn out. I'm really amazed and overjoyed at what I see today. And I thank God that the project has come this far with the help of Ghanaians who have contributed towards it. There's so much to be done in this country. Several hospitals are in need of help, and government cannot do it alone. And so I, as a wife and a mother, grandmother, decided to do something about this particular hospital. And I thank God for how far it's come. And I can't wait to come and launch it very, very soon. So be ready, I'll be back. And I thank you all very much for your contribution. It hasn't ended, so please keep it coming.
Well, the building, which initially will contain only the maternity and children's unit, now has an addition, which is a pediatrics intensive care unit. Briefing the First Lady on the progress of work, engineer of the project, Stephen Carrett, explained the new additions to the facility.
Your Excellency, you've actually demonstrated to us and the whole world you are truly a real mother.
Thank you.
When you saw the suffering of mothers and children, you actually came to our need. We even thought This was going to be a small project, and actually we are overwhelmed. What we've seen today, it's a very big project, and even though it has not come to completion, you can actually realize that it's going to be a very magnificent structure with all the modern state-of-the-art technology that befits a modern hospital. On behalf of the Regional Coordinating Council, on behalf of the MMDCs of Ashanti Region, and on behalf of the people of Ashanti Region, Your Excellency, I present to you this check for an amount of 120,000 Ghana cedi in support of your laudable project. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Minister.
So you heard the Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osei Mensah.